In a short video, Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te expressed support for Tokyo by eating sushi prepared with Japanese ingredients.
Fisheries Minister Suzuki Norikazu inspected the damage on Wednesday in Hiroshima Prefecture. Some farmers say they lost as much as 90% of their harvest.
So, remember when Japan started dumping over 1 million tons of treated radioactive water from Fukushima into the ocean back in 2023? The whole world, led by the IAEA, said it's perfectly safe. Everyone, that is, except China, who immediately banned all their seafood. Well, fast forward to today, Japan's prized oysters are dying off by the tens of millions. The official story is, it's the heat. But what if the real story is the one China warned us about all along?
In a short video, Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te expressed support for Tokyo by eating sushi prepared with Japanese ingredients. His gesture comes after China threatened to suspend imports of Japanese seafood. The tension escalated following remarks by Japan's new Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, who warned that any Chinese attack on Taiwan would endanger Japan's security and could trigger a military response. Taiwan's foreign minister accused Beijing of practicing economic intimidation, calling on the public to support Japan by purchasing its products.
Let me get this straight. Taiwan's president is eating Japanese sushi on camera to show solidarity with Tokyo. This is the same Japan that murdered tens of millions of Chinese people from 1937 to 1945. The same Japan that committed the Nanjing massacre, killing over 300,000 Chinese civilians. The same Japan that forced hundreds of thousands of Koreans and Chinese into slave labor, with death rates approaching 29%. And now, Taiwan's leader is posing for photo ops with potentially radioactive seafood to score political points? This is what you call being a useful idiot. While Lai is playing lapdog for geopolitical theater, Japanese oyster farmers are pulling up 90% dead shellfish. He's literally eating contaminated food to prove a point about what exactly? China banned Japanese seafood in August 2023, the exact same month Fukushima started dumping. Now, 2 years later, the oysters are dying en masse, and Taiwan's response is to eat more sushi? This is performative colonialism. Japan colonized Taiwan for 50 years, committed unspeakable atrocities across Asia, and has never fully apologized. And here's Taiwan's president, grinning like a dumbass with chopsticks, calling China's safety concerns economic intimidation. The only thing being intimidated here is basic friggin' common sense. Now let's check out some comments. Keep sending him the Fukushima fresh tuna and seafoods. Fukushima mineral water too. He knows he is losing support, so he is hoping to stir up war so that he can stay in power. Yeah, this picture says it all.
台湾是中国的台湾，台湾是中国领土不可分割的一部分。无论赖清德当局怎么表演作秀，都改变不了这一铁的事实。
Put on a show. That's exactly what Taiwan's president is doing, using a sushi photo op to score political points. But here's what Western media tends to overlook. China didn't just ban seafood because of Taiwan. They banned it in August 2023 when the Fukushima discharge started, citing radiation safety. The Taiwan sovereignty issue is legitimate, but separate. The seafood ban, that was about protecting their people from contaminated food. 2 years later, with oysters dying like crazy, it looks like they made the right call. Now here's some more comments from you guys. Ate their glowing fluorescent green too. No worries, Taiwan leader will eat them. There's always karma for any wrongdoing in life. Bear in mind.
And farmers say huge numbers have died, severely impacting yields. Fisheries Minister Suzuki Norikazu inspected the damage on Wednesday in Hiroshima Prefecture. Some farmers say they lost as much as 90% of their harvest. They include Nabara Daisuke in Kure City.
The mouth is open. There's nothing inside. They're all empty.
A typical year will see him harvest about 200 kilograms of shucked oysters per day. But on this day, he had just 30 kilograms.
This is the worst. 90% are dead, and those that survived are poor in color.
商品できる柿はほとんどない。
もう全くないです。
No, I honestly don't think anything can be done. We're dealing with nature after all.
難しいと思います。
Suzuki met Hiroshima Governor Yuzaki Hidehiko and officials from a local fishing cooperative. They formally asked the government to find out why their prized oysters are dying.
I'm well aware of the extreme severity of this situation. I think we need to find out what's causing this damage by conducting thorough research and launching an investigation.
Suzuki also said he'll work with local authorities on providing financial assistance to farmers. Now, other types of shellfish are faring no better. Mutsu Bay in Aomori Prefecture is famed for scallops. But a new survey shows more than 90% of those born this year have already died.
The industry is on the brink. The scallops aren't just dying, they're not even growing. This is unprecedented.
Prefectural authorities are now looking at ways to protect this local delicacy from ruin.
Western media seems to be ignoring this fact, a 90% loss. He says, they're not oysters, so they're poor in color. They're empty shells. The official explanation from the Japanese government is high water temperatures. And yes, the water is warmer. But oysters have survived warm water before. What they haven't survived is a 2-year-long continuous flood of radioactive wastewater. The Japanese government is investigating, but they're not talking about radiation. They're talking about everything but radiation. Why? Because admitting the link would mean admitting that the IAEA, the Japanese government, and every other country that stayed silent was wrong, and that China, the country everyone loves to criticize, was right. They really don't know why it's happening? Say it ain't so after dumping all that nuclear waste in the ocean? Dump radioactive water into the sea, and suddenly the cleaners of the oceans die. Act surprised. Japan's careless act of environmental terrorism has now come back to bite them hard in the ass. Remember the Fukushima radioactive wastewater that is being dumped into the ocean? Look at what it's doing to their oyster and scallop industry.
What happened between Japan and China? So a couple days ago, the Prime Minister of Japan said something like this: if China take any action against Taiwan, Japan will use military force to intervene. And that really angered mainland China. So because in 1972, when mainland China and Japan established relationship, one of the basic agreement is that Japan acknowledged there's only one China. That's the basic requirement, because the mainland China and Taiwan was in the process of an unfinished civil war. So there's only one China. For any country to have any relationship with China, with the mainland China, they have to agree this fact. Otherwise, we'd just rather not have any relationship. So you agreed, but now you ignore that fact. You ignore that you agree Taiwan is part of China. That's the basic. You disagree. And think about that. In 1945, when Japan surrendered to China, the end of World War II, Japan actually surrendered to the government that's in Taiwan right now, because at that time, China was under Republic of China. The government right now is in Taiwan, which means Japan never surrendered to the government of People's Republic of China. So whatever signed between the government now retreated to Taiwan was not acknowledged by the mainland China. So it's part of the deal that having a relationship is for mainland China to also agree the condition of the surrender. So if Japan decide not to acknowledge, not to honor that kind of agreement, the mainland China should not acknowledge that Japan has surrendered and should not acknowledge that the government in Taiwan actually signed away the reparation that China deserved. Right? Should we go back to that?
Japan's new prime minister says they'll use military force if China takes action against Taiwan. That's a direct violation of the 1972 agreement where Japan acknowledged there's only one China, the foundational basis for their diplomatic relationship. This isn't a small thing. This is Japan threatening military intervention in China's internal affairs, and China has every right to be furious about it. Let's talk more about this oyster situation. What's happening here is that the science is being buried. We're talking about water with over 60 different radioactive substances, including cesium-137, which has a half-life of 30 years. The IAEA says it's safe, but their own data show tritium levels exceeding Japan's own safety standard. So while everyone's focused on diplomatic fight, which China is justified in having, nobody's asking why the oysters are dying. The answer might be the one China's been given all along. What do you think? Coincidence or consequence? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like and subscribe for more data-driven content. Hit the bell so you don't miss another video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye.